Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cubcast. I'm very excited for another episode. During this podcast, we sit down with remarkable heroes who've been through extreme adversity and challenges in their life. And these heroes are going to guide us through our challenges, our life challenges, and guide us through the situations and day-to-day struggles and everything in between. And it's going to give us more confidence and resilience in our life. And guys, please tune in and let's conquer our life challenges together. We have a very special guest who's really a legend, who has a lot to say, who has a lot to offer as a story. And I'm really excited to have you. Please welcome Gabriel Geula. We're very happy to have you. Thank you for joining us today.
Very happy to be here finally. I appreciate the opportunity.
And we're finally doing this. It took us a little time, but we got it going and I'm very excited.
We did.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and everything in between of just your to introduce yourself to everybody.
My name is Gabriel Geula. I'm originally from New York. I grew up into a family of mother, father, and 4 other siblings in Queens, New York, and later, moved on to other things in other places, but we grew up in New York. Had a tremendous childhood growing up in New York, and
where would you grow up?
In Queens, New York. I grew up in Queens, and again with 4 other siblings, growing up in a very closely tight knit family. A family that's super tight knit, but also super big. I have 4 aunts and uncles on one side, and another like 6 on the other side that live in
so you got a big
Israel
family.
as well. Yeah, so a bunch of cousins, bunch of nieces and nephews now. Yeah, we're growing. It's amazing. But yeah, so I grew up in a big family, and we're super close and super tight knit. It feels like a small family.
Nice. So now that you introduce yourself, maybe the listeners, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but Gabby has a condition called cerebral palsy, which is a spastic type of condition, and which affects his daily life. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your condition and how it affects your daily life?
Right. So I have a condition called cerebral palsy. It is a condition that happens during birth. So what happens is basically there's a lack of oxygen to the brain caused for whatever reason during birth, and that subsequently causes brain damage. And then, as you know a bunch of people with the condition. It affects you in so many different ways, and it can affect things like your physical function, your motor function, the way you speak.
Yeah, and if you meet people with all this condition, I know many people with it, it's totally different. Everyone has it totally different.
It presents totally different depending on how you're affected during birth. For me, fortunately, I would say that it affects me on the more milder spectrum of having the disability. For me, it only affects my lower extremities, my legs, which means for me, I use a power wheelchair to get around, and I can't. I can walk with a walker, but I can't balance on my own. Therefore, that's why I use the power wheelchair to help me get around. My upper body, for the most part, is perfectly fine. I have a little bit of weakness in my right side, but other than that, upper body is pretty strong, and we'll get into what I do.
Just for the listeners, this guy doesn't play games. His disability does not stop him whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get more into that for sure. Of how I maintain my body and make sure that I'm at like optimal.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you grew up, about schooling, about you're growing up with this disability. How did it stop you as a kid, going into maybe first grade or kindergarten?
So yeah, growing up, I want to start a little bit before then. We're gonna move kind of quick here, but I want to start a little bit before then. When I first presented with a disability, I was about 11 months old. Even though, as we said before, it kind of shows the damage happens at birth. Sometimes they can't tell. There's no test to say that you have cerebral palsy. They kind of see it happen later on. And what happened with me was my mother had, three other children before me, and she kind of noticed that I wasn't progressing as the other ones were. And then initially the doctor said, no, he's a little delayed. He'll get there. And for my mom, she was like, yeah, this is not just delay. Like, he's crying all the time. There's issues having.
So now your parents knew that was something going on.
There was something going on. Finally, at 11 months old, they figured out that it was cerebral palsy. There was damage to the brain. And then right away, my family, there's two routes you can take. You can be sad about it, and kind of just take it as it is and really not do anything. My family took it completely different. They went right to work and figured the best doctors, the best therapists, the best schooling, the best possible position for me to thrive and to be the best version of myself I can possibly be. Given,
but now that they knew that they dealt with 3 other children, they knew how to deal with children. But now they got to the next level of it and dealing with it a little harder. Yeah. And they were strong about it, probably. I guess if it was the beginning, the first child, maybe it would be harder.
I'm sure you are, this isn't a situation you want to be in.
Yeah.
But given the situation, I feel like they dealt with it pretty well.
Yes.
And they,
so they're loving, caring parents, and they wanted to do the best for you.
They took action and they wanted the best for me. And then that's what they did. So they went out and went to all these different places and tried to figure out what was the best possible way to give me the best possible life. With that, my childhood wasn't a normal childhood. Why do I say that? It was because a lot of the times my biggest worry wasn't about my grade in my math exam. My biggest worry was
another day, getting through another day,
getting to
school.
Not only getting to school, but like a lot of kids are worried about getting to school. My biggest worry was like, is my wheelchair going to work that day?
Oh, really? So why? So you had trouble with the wheelchair?
Yeah, sometimes.
And you use a motor wheelchair?
So growing up, actually, I used a manual wheelchair.
Oh, really?
In school, I used a motor wheelchair.
Manual wheelchair where you can do it yourself?
No. So at home, because I didn't have an accessible home, growing up, I had a manual wheelchair. In school, we're going to get into the school that I was in, but in school, they had a power wheelchair for me to use once I got to school.
Oh. So they had a wheelchair special for you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Once I got to school. And so, along with my parents finding the best doctors and best therapy, they also found one of the best schools that they could possibly find in not only New York, but I would say the world, for somebody with a physical disability. And I would say for anybody with a physical disability that has a child with physical disability that is looking for a school and is in the New York area, this school was specially made for people with physical disabilities, not only to get the best education possible, but also to get all of their medical needs and physical therapy needs, occupational therapy needs, and speech therapy needs, all of their needs met while they were in school, and integrated.
So you had it all in one together.
Yeah, integrated it well into one amazing school. The school, I just want to get into it a little bit. The school was actually built by a person with a physical disability for the reason of
so someone just like you figured out how to make a school.
Yeah, because he realized that like the school was built in the 60s.
Oh wow!
During that time, if you know a little bit about disabled history, we were not the most disabled friendly country. And,
yeah.
It was difficult for kids with disabilities to get to school and go to school and get a normal education. So he decided to build this campus and build this beautiful campus in Long Island for especially made for kids with physical disabilities. And I remember actually going into school. He during the time that I was there, I was probably in first or second grade when he ended up passing away. But before that, he would always walk around the school, and he wasn't even walking on a wheelchair himself, but he would go to the school and say hi to the kids and whatever.
And what was his disability? Do you know?
He was an amputee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
he was later on.
He lost both of his legs. He actually lived till about 101 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an insane character. His name was Henry Viscardi, and the school was named after him.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so that's where
I guess that itself showed you that you can do anything. Like just,
I mean, so now that you say it, I mean, I didn't really think about it when I was a kid, but like now that you say it, yeah, I mean, he not only gave a place for kids with disabilities to go to school, but once they got out of school, they also made it possible for job connections for people with disabilities as well to move on with their lives and do good things. But so yeah, my family found the school, and I'm super blessed to be able to have gone there. For me, it was a very big eye opening thing because in my neighborhood, um, I was one of the only ones with a disability. All the kids were being, you know, normal kids and playing with each other, playing basketball.
what you're saying in your neighborhood?
Huh?
Your neighborhood?
In my neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
And then once I got to school, I finally got to be a part of a situation where there was other kids with disabilities and there's people with commonalities as me. And, we would get to school and talk about our issues together. And you finally felt like somebody understood you. So that was super nice. And aside from all of the extra stuff that they did for us.
But it's interesting how you said that you were able to notice the things in your neighborhood from a young age, like 4 or 5 years old. I don't know how you didn't remember that.
So I mean, growing up with a disability, you don't grow up with a normal childhood.
Yeah.
You kind of you're kind of forced to mature.
Yeah, so I guess you're knowing things from young because you're going through struggles, so that the struggles in people's lives, if they go through something traumatic or hard, they remember.
Yeah, and I was also a super observant kid. I was a quiet kid, but I was super observant. I would always like notice not only the way people reacted with me, but like small things that's like the facial expression, like whatever.
You're looking at life in a different lens because
it was a super different lens
too.
So again, I was blessed with that ability to really understand people. But yeah, so I went to the school from kindergarten up until ninth grade. I finished ninth grade there. It was a school that went from kindergarten to 12th grade. I decided on my own to move on from there later on, and I went to a regular public school after that.
Oh wow! So that's amazing. Because what made you decide? You had everything. You had your physical therapy, as you said, in the school. You had you said you even went swimming, right? There was a pool or something.
Yeah, we had a swimming class from an hour and a half once a week.
Well, so you had all the things that you had. You were around kids with disabilities that probably even gave you confidence because you're with other people. How do you even tell yourself, let's go to a different school? Like your parents
right?
tell you that, or you made that decision?
It seems crazy, right? I mean, like when you're in a situation that's so perfectly built for you, why would you move? Why would you leave?
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. That's a good question.
For me, it was a lot of, and this was an ongoing theme throughout my life as we go through it. It was yes, I have a disability, but in the school, as even though it was such an amazing school, I felt something as we were kind of being sheltered from the rest of the world, not really given.
But how could that you say that if that was your life, you were there almost all the time, that was part of you? How did you decide? Oh, that's not for me. I'm not. That's it. Next level. It's a very tough.
To be honest, I don't know. I mean, along with the
you must have been mature enough to make decisions like that.
Yeah, I mean, along with going to school in the summers, as you know, we met in Kids of Courage.
Yeah.
And then I met your brother in Lifeline a couple years before that. I think that is what actually pushed me to
just for the listeners. We weren't so close until recently. When we went out for dinner together with my brother and Ofik Lakin, who's from Toronto, and I guess that connected us. And kind of this is when I decided to start the podcast and say, oh, you'd be perfect for it. And that's when we got to know each other. I didn't really know your story. It's the first time hearing it, so this is new to me.
Right. So I think it was those times in the summers where it was other kids with disabilities as well, but there was a difference between there and the school. The school kind of said their idea was, you have a disability, we're going to get you to the best possible situation where you can cope with your disability.
So you were just being yourself in school and doing your school. When it came to going on Kids of Courage, High Lifeline, it kind of opened your mind.
When it came to going on Kids of Courage and High Lifeline, in the school, they said, we're going to give you all the tools you need to cope with this book. With High Lifeline and Kids of Courage, their idea was a little different. Their overarching idea was a little different. Their idea is, yes, you have a disability. However, regardless of your disability, you can do anything you want to do.
So you're able to put in your mind
We
that you
did
can do
things,
whatever you want.
as you know, we did things that were insane.
Yeah.
What,
Jet skiing, maybe even indoor skydiving
these
to
things that you would
going in the ocean that you never able to do that. And
these things that you never
I'm sure you
think
know
of.
more because you've probably been on the trip longer than I've been there. So,
But the thing is, these things that you never think of somebody with a disability being able to do,
someone
they
on a
said,
machine to,
they said, well, regardless of your disability, we're going to make it happen.
yeah.
And for me, that idea switched my mindset off. Well, during the summers, I'm being shown that regardless of my disability, I can do anything.
Yeah. And as we spoke about in our last episode, we had Sherry Soror, who told us, because I can. And she really emphasized this idea of where, so it doesn't mean it, just because I have a disability doesn't mean I can't do anything. She was able to do anything. She put her mind to it, just like you were taught.
Right. And for me, I really internalized that. And in the beginning, it was only part of my summers. But as I got older, I kind of moved that idea into my daily life. And that's when I decided that I no longer want to be in the school where they just tell me, you're given a disability, let's cope with it. I want to be able to maybe be the only person with a disability, and instead of being shy about it, be open with it and be able to show people that I'm able to do things. So I had a conversation with my parents, and I said, listen, I think it's time for me to move on. In the beginning, they were like, no, like, you're in a good situation. Why would you move? Why would you change? I said, maybe it's not something you understand. Maybe it's not something I understand. But in some way, in my mind, this is something I need to do.
So it was like your calling that you had to do.
Yeah, I didn't really listen. Sometimes I put myself in a situation. I don't really know all the answers, but for some reason, something is pulling me to do it.
Mm.
And I feel like when I listen to that, I don't even know what to say. When I listen to that thought in my head of maybe this is something you don't think is good to do, or it doesn't seem logistically like it's possible to do, but there's something in you that's telling you to do it. Go for it.
So kind of, if you think about this, Kids of Courage kind of made you think that way, that you can do whatever your mind puts you at. And now you said, I can do anything. Why can't I go to a regular school with everybody else? What's stopping me from being like everybody else?
Took a lot of convincing with my parents and a lot of figuring out with the rest of the world, because the rest of the world is not built for us. But
and once you, as you said, getting into the disability school is very difficult.
Yeah.
So now you made that decision. It's going to be your decision for high school, and it's very hard to back out.
Yeah, it's very hard to back out to get into the school. It's only a school of 200 people from kindergarten to 12th grade. It's about 10 to 15 students a grade. And once you leave, it's very hard to get in. It's very hard to get in to begin with. It's you have to go through rigorous testing, interviews, this, that, whatever. So once you decide to leave, it's like it's a life decision.
It's a new world, also.
A new world. I decided it was a good thing for me to do. I didn't know if it was the best thing, but I decided that's what I wanted to do. So I ended up going to my local high school in my neighborhood in Queens. Went from a school of 200 students from kindergarten to 12th grade to now a school of 5,000 students.
Wow.
Between the grades of 9 to 12th grade.
That's this big step of yours. So like for me, I also had this kind of step where I went from fourth grade with 6 or 8 kids in my class to about 1,000 kids, maybe more.
Yeah.
But now for you, it was like a little different because you were in a school with disabilities, and now you're in a school, everyone's just running around, just regular on their feet, And
in the beginning, mentally, because we want to talk about the mental aspect of it, it was very shocking. It was very jarring to me. Of like, wow, I'm now.
So it probably took you a lot of time to adjust.
Yeah, I was from being in the school of everybody in wheelchairs practically.
Wow.
To now being one of 2 students.
Wow. So you had other kids that had a disability.
There was one of the students with a physical disability. Oh, wow. The rest of them were like.
So you probably felt a little good that you had somebody there with you.
It felt good, but it felt weird. It was very weird. It took me a few months to adjust. I ended up going 3 years in that school, graduating graduating with my, high school diploma. And then it was time to move on to college. And then again, I made another crazy decision. Some would say, I decided to then move on to go to college, not in a local college.
But can we go back a little bit to the time where now that you enrolled in school, now you're in 9th grade, 10th grade, and now you had to adjust to the people that without disabilities. How was that?
So yeah,
what was
for
that
me,
like?
it was like one of the first times I was in a situation where I'm one of the only people with a disability.
So people look at you differently, treat you differently. Was that like?
Yeah. So a lot of the times, I wouldn't. You have two things. You have two possibilities. Of either somebody's gonna try to treat you poorly and bully you because you're in high school and these things happen, or because you have a disability, now they try to over please and like be good to you and not really treat you as a normal person.
Okay, so you didn't. You got that also. That's something that you probably bothered you the most.
Honestly, I didn't really get the bullying as much as I did getting people being overly nice to me.
Oh, they're in a wheelchair. Oh, let's treat him nicely. Like,
let's treat him. Let's treat him
that's
good.
sad. Let's help him out.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. So you didn't.
I got the pity version of it, and I didn't really like that. So when people came up to me and gave me that version, I was like, buddy, nope, this is not what we're doing. Like, I'm normal. I'm just like you, And then either they, I got a lot of people to change up really quickly because like,
oh well, you were this mature guy that stood yourself.
And I think that's super important for people with disabilities. It's like you are your own advocate. Nobody's gonna. Like,
but I guess the you being in the other school with the disabilities, going up like that and going Kizukuri, going to Chai Life, this gave you this confidence and it gave you this layer of support where you were able to get up and go to another school that was not like that.
Yeah, I mean, like those years where I was around people with disabilities, it gave me the comfortability with myself and saying, okay, this is not abnormal. I'm not the only person on earth that's dealing with this. So then when I was taken out of that and put into, I would say, quote unquote, like the real world, where I was like the only person with a disability, when confronted with a situation where somebody would treat me as if I was the only person on earth with a disability, I would be like, well, no, I'm not the only person on earth with a disability.
Because that's how you lived your life. Like you weren't the only guy in the picture. There was other guys around you.
But for a lot of people, right, when I would have conversations with them, one-on-one conversations, they would be like, I'm sorry that I treated you this way at first. Yeah. You're the first person I've ever met in a wheelchair.
Oh, wow. So they didn't even know how it was like.
They just don't know how to deal with it. And a lot of people, I know a lot of people that have disabilities, and when these type of situations happen to them, they kind of get upset and like, why are you treating me differently? The reality is, in the real world of life, 90% of people haven't come across somebody in a wheelchair.
Yeah. That's why we got to make it more. We have to bring awareness to those people. That's important.
I mean, and that's what it is. So when people would come up to me, like treating me differently, at first I was like getting a little upset by it, but then I realized I'm like, well,
but that's normal. Yeah.
Maybe you just haven't experienced this before. Yeah. And then, I would take that anger and turn it into like a life lesson for them and say like, no, like I'm normal, just like you. I'm just sitting down,
Yeah.
We're able to have a normal conversation. You don't have to talk to me like I'm a child.
Yeah. That's true. And sometimes they'll talk to you maybe slower or talk to you differently,
You don't have to do that, man. Like, we're good.
So I guess once they got to know you a little bit more, they got to know who you were. And
so I think for me also, I'm very quick to make people comfortable with me. Yeah. I think so.
You're a very chill guy.
Very chill guy. Yeah. And, I think that kind of benefited me when I went out to go do like my own thing, and I connected with people really easily. And it just made them feel comfortable to come and talk to me.
Yeah, fine. So I guess you got to make people more comfortable with it to come up to you and talk to you.
Yeah. So that was high school. I mean, high school is just like any other normal high school. And then, as I was saying before, I like challenges. And it wasn't.
You like to be challenged. You don't like to be in your comfort, and you like to like escape from that.
It wasn't
world.
It wasn't enough for me just to say I did this high school thing. I decided that I'm going to end up going to college out of state, away from my family.
Oh, wow. So you were thinking about doing not only going, you wanted to get to the next level. You wanted to challenge yourself to this next level.
To the next 10 level. And so how this happened, basically, I was in and out of Miami a lot, going a few times a year. I had a doctor over here, so we were here often. And I remember I was on vacation with my family, and as sort of a joke, we were on the highway, we passed by a billboard for the school. And I said, oh, I have a good business. I was looking at a business program. I'm like, oh, it was a billboard for promoting their business program. And I'm like, we're in the car as a family, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna apply to the school, and if I get in, I'm gonna go. And I kind of got like a surrounding chuckle from my family, like, this is like, it's like a pipe dream. It's not gonna happen,
Oh, wow. So when you applied it, when you were looking at it, were you serious about it, or like you?
So I was serious in my own head, but I was half serious when I was talking to them.
Oh.
I was like, let's just see how they react.
Yeah.
And when they kind of gave me a little laugh, I was like, that's what really made it more serious for me. And I was like, in my own head, I didn't say anything to anybody. In my own head, I was like, okay, we're going to make this happen.
When someone says you can't do something, that's when you do it even more. So it actually reminds me of being in a rehab center after I broke my leg. And the woman said, the physical therapist said, I'm sorry, but you're going to probably have to use a walker for the rest of your life. Right. And this is the only way out. I said, no, this is not happening. She goes, but this is the way, and you have to get used to it. I said, I got so angry, and I said, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And this is not happening to me. And it gave me a nice fume fire in me, and it even pushed me harder to do even better.
Let me tell you something. You said she told you that this is the way.
Yeah.
It's never only one way.
Yeah, it's never one.
It's never only one way. There's multiple ways to do the same thing, and you just have to find your way.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, as I'm applying for schools, I applied to about 5 different colleges in New York, where I was living.
Mm-hmm.
And I told myself, I said, if I get into this one school, I'm only applying to this one. I said, if I get in, I'm going to go. If I don't get in, I'm going to stay in New York. But if I get in.
Okay, so fine. So you applied to Miami. You applied to Miami, and you applied only to New York, the other ones.
The other school. Only one school in Miami. The rest of the schools were in New York. Well, I got into a bunch of schools in New York. Some even would say it's better schools than I got in than I had other options for. But I did get one letter from this one school in Miami.
Wow. So you got accepted at the Miami school. Wow.
I opened up the letter and I got it, and I got accepted. Now, my parents, they're the type of people that don't really read things too well.
And in the beginning, they didn't take you serious. Did they know that you were applying to the school? Did you tell them?
I didn't tell them anything. I didn't tell nobody anything. We always sat down as a family for dinner every night.
Nice.
My family.
It's beautiful.
My family always worked. My mom had a job. My dad had a job. They always worked late.
Wow.
No matter how late they worked, we always sat down.
That's beautiful.
As a family.
My family's similar like that. Not everyone has that, but we're blessed to have that in our family.
Exactly. It was a beautiful thing. Yeah. Now, one night when we were sitting down for dinner, I took this letter that I got from the school in Miami, and I just kind of placed it on the table. I said, look, it was a big envelope that said, you've been accepted. Right on the outside of the envelope. Show it to my father. He says, okay, congratulations.
Very nice. Enjoy the school. You'll be,
And again, I was the first person in my family to actually go to college.
Wow. So that was a big thing.
It was a big thing, but for them, they're like, my family is business owners. Yeah. Nobody's been through that path of going.
But they didn't think about, oh wow, my son has a disability. It was hard for him. Life's not easy. But instead, he's still going to college, and nothing's stopping him.
Right. So for me, that was always my way. It was always education. It was, being intellectually the best I can be. Can't be physically the best, but I'm going to be intellectually the best. Now, so I put down this letter. He says, "Okay, congratulations." Not even looking at where it was from. I said, "No, but look at the city, look at the state, look at the zip code that it's coming from." It says Miami, Florida, 33, whatever the zip code is. He looks at it. He goes, "No way, it's not happening. Have a good day."
It wasn't even an option.
But I told him this wasn't the truth. Told him later that it wasn't the truth, but at the moment, I told him, I said, listen, I applied to other schools, but I got this letter. I opened the letter. I denied every single one of them. So here's the deal.
Oh, you denied that already?
And that's what I told him.
Oh, okay, fine. So he doesn't really know what that means.
It didn't really happen.
Yeah.
It was still open for discussion, but I told him I denied every other school. So here's the deal. Either I go to the school in Miami or I sit home for 6 months. What do you want me to do? It's back and forth, back and forth. My sister had actually moved, my oldest sister had actually moved to the Miami area a year prior. And I knew all this was going to happen, and I knew they were going to tell me no. So before I told them anything, I actually called my sister. And I said, hey, this is my idea.
So you had everything planned out. You had a whole strategy around it.
I said, this is my idea. I'm not sure how this is going to go. I'm really just throwing myself in the fire.
Yeah. Just like you did in public school. You went from a school that was helping you, and now you just threw yourself in the fire.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just throwing myself in the fire. I don't know how this is going to go. It's not only me.
As you said, you like challenges. You like to be challenged. It's something that you enjoy.
And it's not only me going to a different school. Now me, for the first time ever, living on my own.
Oh, wow.
And the way I grew up with first starting out with living aids helping me.
So you had a caregiver helping you with throughout every day.
So I went from having a caregiver helping me to now having the possibility of living on my own.
Wow. And in another state, far from your family. If anything happened, they couldn't even help you.
So I spoke to her and I said, listen, I don't know how this is going to go. If things go horribly, I need you as a backup plan to be there for me.
Okay, good.
And she said, and I told her, I said, I know how this is going to go with our parents. I said, absolutely. The first thing they're going to do after I tell them is call you. So I need you to back me up. I need you to tell them that it's okay and you have my back.
Wow.
She said, absolutely. No problem. Exactly what I said happened. They said no to me at first.
You had siblings that backed you up. Yeah.
They said no to me at first. Then they called her, exactly as I said. And she said, absolutely, I have him. Don't worry about it.
Got him.
And then they finally came to terms with it, whatever. And the deal was, I'm going to run through this quickly, but the deal was, you have 1 semester. You do well the 1 semester, you can stay. If you don't do well, you come back. So, okay, no problem.
So meaning well that you weren't able to handle it, meaning?
Yes. When I first got to here, and this was my first time ever visiting the school. I didn't visit the school before.
Oh, wow.
Whatever, I'm going into the...
Just straight up going there and that's it.
Didn't know a single soul. Didn't know anybody. Whatever. We went from a school of 200 in elementary school to middle school, right? High school, we went to a school of 5,000. Wow. This school was one of the biggest schools in the country, capacity-wise. Wow. 50,000 students.
Wow.
Meeting all these new people.
So now you're at level 10 now.
We're at level 1,000 at this point. I wouldn't even know. And I get there. My mom takes me there. She helped me set up the dorm room, whatever. And she leaves me. She honestly.
By the way, if you know most people that I know around my community, they like to be near home.
It's not even a normal thing for a normal person.
Yeah, for a normal person to get up and say, okay, I'm going out of my comfort zone. I'm going to Chicago. I'm going across the country. I'm going to here. And you decided to do that, even though maybe people around you, even going to public school with those other kids, maybe they didn't even go out of town.
Yeah.
So that was a big challenge.
I think most people in my high school actually would stay vocal.
And question, did that give you some confidence to say, oh, wow, I'm the man.
So here's the thing. The first semester, the first 3 months, was super difficult.
Well, so you said that if you weren't able to handle it, you would tell your parents and you would have to go back home.
It was super difficult. They would call me, not 5 times a day, they would call me 10 times a day. Hey, Gabi, how's it going? Are you okay? Are you eating? Are you drinking? How's the classes going? You know, is everything going good with the dorm? Are you living okay? Are you sleeping okay? Whatever. I would tell them, absolutely everything is amazing. I'm having the best time. Don't worry. The first 3 months, the first semester, in reality, having a terrible time. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't know how to fold the shirt. I didn't know how to do anything. I said, don't worry. In my head, I was like, don't worry.
You got this.
I'm going to push through. Yeah. We got this, regardless of everything.
So really, most of the things that you did, you couldn't really handle, but you just put yourself.
I put myself through it. And thank God I figured things out here, there, whatever, and everything worked out.
But I have a question for you. So in life, sometimes, we push ourselves to the next level and we make ourselves do things that are impossible. What got you to tell yourself that I'm overdoing it? I need to ask somebody for help. I need to ask my neighbor. I need to ask my sister maybe. But you never told your parents, but what?
I didn't tell my parents just because if I told my parents anything bad, they would say,
You're coming home.
come back.
So I'm saying not even,
I avoided that. However, you need to ask for help.
Yeah.
You need to ask for help.
So I'm saying, okay, maybe you didn't ask your parents for help, but I'm talking about throughout your life, like what guy to tell you that I'm overdoing it? I'm stubborn and I need help.
So I'm a very stubborn.
Yeah. That's what gets you through it. Huh?
That's what tells you to keep pushing, being stubborn.
Yeah.
And there's people that if you're not stubborn, people will tell you no and you'll believe them.
Yeah.
And people will tell you it's not possible and you'll believe them. But being stubborn, it's actually, it has a bad connotation to it. And in the general sense, in the societal sense, being stubborn is not a good thing. However, I feel that being stubborn is what gets you past normalcy. It gets you beyond what most people are capable of. Is saying no, what you think of as normal is not normal, and we should push past what you think of as normal. I think the stubbornness helps you push past that.
Push past that comfort zone, I would say. Maybe.
Yeah. Listen, there's so many people throughout my life that have told me, "Oh, this is not possible. That's not possible. Whatever it may be." If I listen to all of them, they're all great people. I'm sorry, but if I listen to all of them, I wouldn't be where I am today.
But it kind of pushed you saying I can do more. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
capable of more than what you think.
Like you said with the nurse that told you that you're not going to be able to do the things you want to do. If it wasn't for her,
you want to prove them wrong. Maybe she had a plan. Maybe she does it purposely to help them. Who knows?
Maybe. Listen, I think it's very important that you push past the limits of normalcy.
Yeah, but then there's a place where you kind of need to tell yourself, like, okay, I'm overdoing myself. I need to ask for help.
Right.
There's limits. You have to know your limits.
There's a difference between asking for help and giving up. There's a very big difference between that. I don't really believe in giving up.
Yeah, but not exactly giving up, but like kind of saying like, okay, I'm overdoing it.
Yeah. I've pushed past what I'm capable of. I need to ask for assistance here and there. And that's fine. Like, I was like, when I first moved here, I had wonderful roommates that were willing to like help with whatever I needed.
But how'd you find a roommate in the first place? And you first came and someone's like, okay, you want to room with this guy? How did you even know? Like,
and the first time I was rooming with like random people.
Oh, wow.
This was a crazy situation.
Oh, so you're putting yourself, you don't even know if the guy wants to help you. He could be a lazy guy, he doesn't want to help you for anything.
We had a little group chat between us because the school connected.
Yeah.
We had a little group chat between us. And one of the guys, whatever, I hadn't, this was before I moved. They hadn't met me.
So you never know you.
They didn't know my situation. They didn't know about me. So I'm like, I have to tell them at one point that I have a disability, just to let them know.
Yeah.
Not that they're going to need to help me with anything, just whatever, just let them know. So I go, guys, I'm like, so there's something I have to tell you. Yeah, whatever. I said, the apartment, the little dorm that we have, it's going to be a little bit of a bigger one. That's how I put it.
So you were able to get a bigger dorm because of the disability?
Yeah, I had an accessible dorm.
Oh, wow. Sick.
Now I'm like, it's going to be a little bit of a bigger one. They're like, all right, cool.
But
they're like, how do you know that? I'm like, well, I have a wheelchair, like, So there was three other guys. Two of the guys were like cool about it. They're like, yeah, whatever, cool. Like, if you ever need anything, well, we're here for you. One of the guys was like, are we going to need to help you with stuff? Like, I don't mind to help you. I just wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to mess with them a little bit just because I like to have a little fun sometimes. I'm like, actually, we'll call him Steve. I don't want to not mention his name. I'm like, hey, it's Steve. Actually, the director of the housing for the school, he told me that you actually volunteered to help me. you know? And, I'm like, they told me that they're going to give you like free food and free, a little bit off the housing cost and whatever. And they said, that you'd be willing to help me. Yeah, I'm like, it's only going to take like 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours at night. I'm like, that's what they said. They didn't talk to you about it? And he goes, wait, what?
So you kind of made it sound worse than what it was, and then when he got there,
No, I was just
like,
making a joke
okay.
about it. And then he goes, wait, what? I didn't sign up for any of that. Like, yeah, like, I don't mind to help you. Sometimes I can't do it every day.
Mhm.
I said, Steve, don't worry. I'm joking. Everything's good. Like, I'll be able to handle myself. But they were super cool, and
Nice.
I was blessed with that. But, yeah.
Because some people would say, "Oh, I don't want to be a disabled person. I don't want to do with that."
Yeah, I mean, I would
So
say,
you got
like,
lucky there.
I heard about tremendous horror stories between even regular roommates just living with each other. I had about like 8 to 12 different people throughout my 4 years in college. And most of them were amazing people.
Nice.
And they
That's
were super
really a
understanding.
gift. And one thing I'm going to ask is something that we go through. Everyone has a challenge. Everyone has difficulty. When you went through the hardest times, moments of hardship, and you didn't know you're going to be able to deal with it, how'd you keep a positive mindset? What kept you with this mindset to continue pushing, to continue going?
So I think it's faith. I think it's God.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do think it's that. I mean, I think early on in my life, I would ask a lot of like, I was kind of, as a kid, I was a outwardly happy kid, but inside, somewhat, I would say, like, not depressed, but I was a little down about the situation. I would kind of,
It's interesting. Every time you do that, you bring fireworks to the thing.
it's good. People love
Yeah.
it. But, yeah, I was kind of down about it. And then sometimes I would like say like, why me? Why would I put in the situation? Why not the next? Why anybody?
Mm-hmm.
And, something happened. I don't want to get into the situation, but something happened later on in life where it kind of got me to understand that like the situation wasn't given to you because you're not given a situation that you can't handle.
Yeah, God gives you what you can handle.
God gives you exactly what you can handle.
Yeah, and I had actually a situation. I was in the sauna in Miami, and some guy came in and he's complaining about his back. Oh my God, my back is hurting so much. And I'm sitting there and he's like, oh my God, I'm sorry that I said this. I'm embarrassed. Cause he's like, oh, you must go through a lot worse,
He looked at
whatever.
you and
And I was like, no, God gave you what you could handle. And you have a right to complain because you're going through whatever you can handle. And some people, they go through situations and they may look at somebody that's going through it harder. No, you have the right to go through what you're going through. But at the same time, you got to know,
listen, you're not obligated to always be happy in the situation.
Yeah.
That's not an obligation. I think what it really is an obligation is to understand that the situation is given to you for a reason, and it's given to you because God thinks that you can handle it, and He wouldn't give it to you if you couldn't.
Yeah. So for me, I got it. It's actually interesting. A year ago from today, I got into a car accident, and from there, I was like, "Why is this happening? Why me? Why this? Why that?" And later on, I'm able to look at it. It's like this makes me stronger. This is making me who I am. God does everything for our best.
Yeah, it's all about perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about perspective, and I think He puts you through these tests, whatever the test is, to like see how you're going to handle it, and understand that it's not a curse and it's not a bad thing. It's actually, I think it's actually made me a lot of who I am is the situation that I was given.
So I actually have a question that might help us here is if God gave you a time, He told you you can go back in time and you can choose not to have a disability, what would be going through your mind? It helped you who you are, it made you more mature, it got you through your challenges, it made you more confident, it took you out of your comfort zone, it made you put yourself and challenge yourself more. What would your mindset be? Obviously, you don't want to go through the suffering, you don't want to go through the hard time, but what would you do in this situation that God gave another chance? Like, it's not a chance, but
give me an opportunity.
Opportunity.
Now, I think it's a very big question. It's a very tough question, and I think depending on who you ask them, they're going to probably give you a multitude of answers.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think that I've come to the realization that if I didn't have the disability, let's just say, would I be the same person that I am today? I'm not talking about physically. Obviously, physically
Yeah,
would
no,
be different. Here go the fireworks. Okay. Um, obviously, physically it would be different,
yeah,
but really, like internally, like mentally, emotionally, would I be the same person? Would I be, would I be more of a bad person? Would I be a better person? Who knows?
yeah.
But I'm very happy with the person that I am today.
Nice.
And
It's a great way to look at life. That's a good. Also, it
I
gives
don't know.
you it gave you perspective. Like
Yeah,
it gave you a different perspective on life.
I don't know if I didn't have the disability, if I'd be the same person. And that's kind of scary to me. I
Yeah.
kind of like the person that I am.
Nice. I like that.
So I think it has a very big.
But I guess there's a difference between going back in time and God telling you, okay, you can be normal now. Like, I don't know, like
Yeah,
obviously you would take that
for me,
now,
it's a little
maybe.
different. I mean, there's people that who grew up with full physical abilities, and then it was later taken away, whether it was an accident
Yeah.
or other things. But for me, it didn't. It happened to me at birth, and
Yeah.
this is what I know.
Yeah. This is what you know exactly.
You know.
Remember you told me something about how you didn't know you had a disability really until later on or something like that. I remember you saying something
Yeah, I
like that.
didn't really know until I went to the outside world, and the outside world told me I had this.
Yeah. And then they treated you a little differently and they treated you a little
For
differently and
me,
you kind
yeah,
of
for me, my family always
stood your ground.
treated me as if I was a normal kid.
Oh, wow.
So
That's great.
it wasn't as
I guess that's a good thing, but it also, it's like
it wasn't
tough.
until I met like people from the outside world that started to like baby me once I was like 10 years old. I'm like, oh, I'm not a kid anymore. Why
So
talk to me
how do
like
you
that?
have this perspective on knowing that I'm going to be strong? I'm going to throw myself into the challenge. Was that the way you grew up? Was it the
I think it's just my personality.
personality?
I think about personality. I think that's just the way I am. I think I'm always looking for a challenge. I'm always looking for something more.
So I guess God gave you the right challenge,
Yeah.
I
So
guess.
like that's what I was
Gives what
saying
you can
before.
handle.
It's like he doesn't give you something without the tools to fix it.
Exactly. So you had the family that backed you. You had the things that backed you. You had your mindset backed you.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, it's not. Sometimes it's not easy to find those
Yeah.
tools, but you have them.
Yeah. And you're gonna have bad days. There's bad days. There's tough days. But going back to the other question, do you have a specific time where it was hard and you pushed through with your mindset?
Getting back to like when I moved out here, I think
Yeah.
that was a really tough time for me, and
Uh,
I think at that time, not many people knew how tough it was because I always tried to put on a good face. Because for me, I looked at it as I put myself through that situation, and I have
yeah.
to
So
push
you
through.
have to push through. That's
So
it.
it's like I can't really
Because
tell
then you,
people how difficult it is.
then you're gonna show how weak you are. You don't want to show that.
Yeah, and it's like it's a battle, but
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm not saying it's a good thing to keep it in,
Yeah.
but I
No.
think for me in that situation, and now I'm able to tell the story
Yeah.
and say how difficult it was at that time. But I don't think I don't think I would do it any different.
Wow. So that's a great
Yeah,
way perspective. And now can we continue the story of how now you got to school, you enrolled, you're there, and you're putting on this face for your parents, and 3 months are going by. Now, when did you get used to this? How did you get used to it, and what happened after that?
I can't really recall exactly when I got used to it. I think it was just a natural
Yeah.
progression of just like being comfortable. Um, and then not only did I move out to Florida. This was also the same time I was able to I was blessed enough to to get my driver's license and
Wow.
start to drive and start to really experience the world and on my own. And
But not everyone realizes that people that have disabilities and people that are tied to a machine or to a wheelchair, to confined to a wheelchair or any kind of situation, there's a possibility you can drive. And we realized the last 3 episodes we had Soror, we had Sherry Soror, and we had Hoodie Aryeh, who was able to drive also.
Yeah.
And we have Ben Taplin. So so far, all of our guests so far were able to drive a car somehow.
I mean, I think that gives you a certain freedom, right? For anybody to drive a car, it's an amazing thing. For us, it's a little different because we have to do it different. And whether it's a hand control or some other type of control that somebody uses, Sometimes people like come up to me and ask me like, how is it to drive with your hand? Yeah. I have a gear shifter.
Yeah.
I pull it for gas, I push it for brake, and then I steer with my other hand. My legs are not really doing
Oh, so
that.
you're able to steer also.
Yeah.
Oh.
So my legs are not pretty much doing nothing. And they asked me, they're like, how does it, we press the gas with our foot and the brake with our foot. How does it feel to do with your hand?
So interesting. You don't.
And
I'll
go back to them. I'll go back to them and say, well, how does it feel to do with your foot? This is just the way I'm used to.
Yeah, that's just the way you were taught. And
Yeah.
question: before you got your driving license, were you thinking like in high school and like, how am I going to drive? How am I going to do everything? Like like high school came and you're seeing people drive.
So one thing that comes with cerebral palsy is sometimes depending on who you are and the type of cerebral palsy that you have, it's a very common thing to have a startle reflex when it comes to loud noises.
Oh yeah.
So that's one thing for me that I have, and for me it became a concern when I started to drive. I'm like, oh, what if somebody? It's not only for loud noises, but it's also something that happens when sudden movement happens. Sometimes I'll jump and whatever.
Oh, wow.
So that was a very big concern for me when I started driving. I'm like, what if somebody honks at me and I jump and I lose control? Like,
wow, that's scary.
So I went over to the driving instructor and I was like, listen, this is a big concern for me. He goes, absolutely, don't worry about it. I said, what do you mean? He goes, don't worry, just get behind the wheel and start driving.
I guess that's the first step is like, you gotta do it first and then.
You know what he did?
Oh, he made sound.
The first time I started driving, for an hour we were driving, the entire time he goes, boo.
Oh my God, so he's training you how to do this.
And it's not that I learned not to jump, but he goes to me, see, you jump for a split second.
You can do it.
Did that split second veer you off your path? No.
It's like a sneeze. Like someone sneezes. It's scary. Imagine sneezing on the highway. Yeah, you can't handle it. Like, it's hard.
You'll just become used to it and you'll become comfortable and everything is going to be okay. And also, that's a very big idea that he gave me. It's like, okay, things are not going to always be up to the standard of how it should be, but you'll become comfortable and you'll become okay.
And if you realize in this New York City, you're driving New York City, every second,
there's something going on.
There is a miracle that you didn't get hit. Especially in Manhattan. Every single time it's so close.
Yeah. So he gave me that confidence and I was able to ride with it. But yeah, it was
but I guess you didn't have the pressure of New York here in Miami, maybe.
Well, I learned to drive in New York.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
So that gave you that pressure. You were able, if you were able to drive in New York, you can drive anywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, the ability to drive was a very big freedom for me. I think, it was a very big thing for me.
It's a big freedom to be able to get up and go out for dinner and do your thing and go and be yourself.
So when we went out to dinner, I drove there myself.
Yeah. And I saw your car. It was very cool. It opens up on the side.
Yeah.
Most people would go crazy over that. It's very cool. But it's a gift that you have, I guess, is to get up and go. And I was like, how's this guy getting here himself? How is he going to come here to the restaurant? I was worrying. I was asking my brother, like, how does he do it? He's like, don't worry. He's good.
I was like, don't worry, he got it. My brother knows me very well. We're very close. But yeah, it's a very big freedom. And I thank God every day for all the ability that I have to do different things, even though it's different, even though the way I do things is different.
So tell us about how now school's going on and you're going through school. Tell me about that. How did it go on from there?
So yeah, I got the experience of being in school with regular people in high school. In college, I just had to really more so get used to living on my own and doing my own thing and, figuring out, I have to do laundry or I have to cook for myself.
Oh, wow. So how do you even cook yourself? Yeah, that's a big question.
Even people without a disability, and that was for me, it was more so, it's like, has nothing to do with my disability. People that don't have a disability are perfectly fine or are struggling with this.
Yeah, true.
And it's just a mindset change. It's like, but I think, and again, I have a lot of friends with disabilities, and they all come to me and say, "Listen, I wanna try this. I wanna do it." And I'm inspired by seeing you do all these things, and I'm kind of scared.
Myself, I'm sitting here inspired right now and thinking what my next step is and what I can do differently and better.
I think a lot of people, and to be honest, I didn't have a blueprint for this. I didn't have somebody that that I saw do this.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to prove to myself that I can do it, and prove to my family that I can do it. And I wasn't going to go on the normal path of things of like leave the house when I got married as a community. That's I needed to kind of figure things out on my own. Learn.
Because some people don't leave their home with their family until they get married, and that's something that some people do, some people don't.
And that was a conversation that I had with my parents. Was like, listen, you want me to get married, right? You want me to live on my own with somebody else? How am I going to do that? How is this person going to be comfortable with that?
Well, I like how you looked ahead. That was really something big that you did that.
Yeah, I'm like, how is this person going to be comfortable with that when I'm not yet comfortable with myself? You know?
Yeah.
I need to do that, and thank God we're able to do that. And it comes when it comes. But I think my ability to constantly think ahead. If you see like there's a theme in this, it's like I was able to think, okay, I'm good in the school with kids with disabilities, but I need to learn to be with people without disabilities. Okay, I did that. I'm good with this part of it, but now I need to learn how to live on my own. So I'm going to put myself in this situation. And I think it's very important to put yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable, but there's room.
That's a part of life. Sometimes God even makes it uncomfortable for you so you can get through these.
Yeah, and I don't think. Listen, I think again, everything that I do, I don't think if God didn't want it, I don't think that.
Wow.
I think that there's a very big. It's very important to realize that.
So I have a question, and I think this is perfect for the theme that we're talking about right now. In life, sometimes we have a challenge, as we spoke about,
right?
And for you, you have an experience that you dealt with many different situations, and through what you were dealt with, it was not easy, and you were able to push through and get through life. What would you tell people that going through a similar situation, or someone who's going through a day-to-day struggle, even a regular, down? Sometimes we have downs. What would you tell those people, and how to get through it, and how to keep pushing, and how to keep going? This is the famous question, and I think this is the perfect time for that.
So firstly, everybody has different struggles, and I can't tell you specifically how to deal with your own struggle. However, generally, I think that people don't give themselves enough credit for what they're capable of. And I think they see a challenge and they kind of shy away from it. They get scared.
Mm.
And I think that every challenge that we're given, as I spoke about before, every challenge that we're given, we are given also, it might not be as present and in front of our face, but I feel like we're given the tools that we need. I mean, it may not be put together completely, but we're given the tools that we need to face that challenge.
Sometimes in the moment we think we can't handle it,
And I think it's up to us to really look within ourselves or look within our surroundings and try to really figure out what do I have in my disposal to deal with it, not for the long run. You don't need to figure everything out the first day. Again, like my movie here, I didn't figure everything out the first day, but slowly, day by day, task by task, you figure out, okay, to pick this thing up off the floor, I need to lean like this and do like this and whatever it is.
Take your time and you get it done.
Take your time and you figure it out, and it's possible. You just need to
put your mind to it.
Put your mind to it, and really, really have a positive mindset and be willing to figure things out. And I think, as a person with a disability and as people with disabilities, I think that's our superpower.
And I think something that maybe we can do is not compare each other to others, because everyone has their own challenge, and we can't compare ourselves to other people. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, but I think what I was beginning to say was, I think our superpower as people with disabilities is the ability to we're put in these situations where we're forced to adapt, right? And the world is not built for us. And I think, generally speaking, no matter if you have a disability or not, the idea that the world owes you something and is built for you is wrong. And I think that we all have to understand within ourselves that the world is not built for us. We have to adapt to the world. We have to understand okay, this is the given situation. How can I make this work for me? You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's as people with disabilities, we're forced to do that on a daily basis. The world doesn't build for us.
Maybe we have no choice. That's the
Sometimes
only way to get through it.
sometimes there's no ramp. There's a
Yeah.
flight of stairs. What do we do? Sometimes the elevator is broken. What do we do? You know, every day we're this week. my car that you saw when we went out to dinner, the door stopped working.
Oh, and then you said you had to go in the airport, right?
So I have to thankfully I have my own minivan. I had to have it sent from New York to be able to get around. But you know, these are the type of small things that a regular person can just go out and rent a car.
Yeah.
You know, these small things that happen, but
But you need your special car to get in. There's no other way to get in the car.
Exactly. But like these things happen, and you know, the world is not built for us.
No, but you also said that you went to, where'd you go? You went away?
I was in Texas. That's why we were delayed on this podcast. Yeah. But I went away and whatever.
And then he called me. He needed to find a way from the airport, but you figured it out.
I figured it out. Whatever.
It all works out in the end. That's the main thing.
And that's the thing. It's like, yeah, we're throwing these curveballs all the time. Whatever the situation is, we're throwing these curveballs. But how do you deal with it? Do you deal with it upset and angry and depressed, or do you deal with it with a smile on your face and ready to take it on and say, this is a challenge for me. I'm excited for the challenge, you know?
What do you got next? That's it. That's the next thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so now that you so how'd you graduated school? Like, tell us about after school, how that even close together.
I graduated 2020. I moved exactly when COVID started, right? And my initial path was to get a job using my degree somewhere in business or corporate or whatever it was. I had a bunch of interviews here and there. And whether it was because of my disability, in some interviews that was apparent that they just didn't want to hire me because I had a disability, or it was because it was COVID and they were just firing people instead of hiring people. I had difficulty finding a job. So
but this is before school ended.
This was like the last semester. So, you know, we were looking for jobs. We were, you know, they were bringing recruiters into the college, and you know, we were meeting with different people. Whatever. It was a very difficult time to find a job, regardless of the reason. But I decided, well, instead of looking for a job, I'm going to create a job. And I looked within myself and looked in what I know. And I decided to get into the field of medical equipment rentals. So I started that, and while living here, I started.
So you did like medical equipment, just like things that
wheelchairs, scooters, walkers. So I do that in New York. I have a team in New York that basically handles.
But what got you into that? What got you into that business? What brought you there?
It was something that you know, obviously being a person with a disability, I understand the struggles of having a disability, and being able to access what you need when you need it.
Nice.
So
it's basically some struggles in your life, so you knew how people needed these things.
A lot of my customers and clients, either their equipment is broken and they need something to get them through until it gets fixed, or they're just older people and they need something to get around, and I'm happy to help them and give them what they need to get around.
That's nice.
Yeah, and it started off slow, and I've been doing it for the past few years, and it's been picking up, thank God. So that started in New York. Now we're working on opening a full location here for rental, sales, and repairs.
Wow. So I remember you telling me something about how the business started and how it came to being. You said you went home and then.
Yes, I went home.
Yeah, tell me about that story.
Traveling sometimes can be pain, and airlines don't take care of your equipment the way you would like them to take care of your equipment.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So traveling home to New York, I used to go to New York in the summers a lot, and my wheelchair ended up getting broken down. Went to this place in New York
But this is a wheelchair you've been using for a while.
Yeah.
So it's like a problem that
Sort of like
didn't
this
work.
wheelchair that I'm sitting in now.
Oh, well.
No, when it got off the plane, sometimes they're a little rough taking it off the plane, and so one of the essential pieces broke, and it needed to be repaired. And meanwhile, I was waiting for a repair. I needed something to get around.
And you traveled on your own?
Yes, I travel on my own.
Oh, wow.
Pretty often.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's probably a big challenge. No, is it difficult to do it?
Airlines have been pretty accommodating, and I have my list of airlines that I would tell you to go to and not to go to, depending on my experiences. And I'm sure a lot of other people have the same. But yeah, they're pretty accommodating. It's not so difficult for me, at least. They have the team to help you get on and off the plane. I would suggest for anybody traveling with any type of medical equipment, always try to speak to the person that's actually putting the stuff in the plane.
Wow.
So I always make a request. I always make a request to the person that's taking care of the flight. I said, please, could I speak to they're called ramp agents. Say, can you bring him up?
Because it's frustrating when things break.
What happens, especially with my chair, it's an electric wheelchair. What happens is they don't know how to turn it on. They don't know how to move it. So they try to force it.
Yeah. And then because they don't care that much either, probably.
They're on a time crunch.
Okay.
They're trying to get the plane taken off on time, And I understand it, but at the end of the day, these are my legs.
Yeah.
Without this, I can't move.
Yeah.
And so they're always willing to come up and talk to me about how to operate the chair. And with that, sorry.
So the wheelchair broke, and then you had to find a new one. How do you even do that?
So that's the thing. So that's how I ended up starting my business.
Oh, wow.
When the wheelchair broke, I ended up having to rent it out from a place in New York. And I realized they're charging a crazy amount of money. Wow. And I was like, this is not so difficult to do. I can do this. Yeah. And that's where
they probably didn't have too many options either, maybe, no?
I mean, it wasn't something like this. It was something a little bit more simple. But, it is what it is.
So then you have a rental company in New York. Why don't you tell us about it a little bit?
Yeah, so it's called NYC Mobility Rentals. We rent scooters, wheelchairs, walkers, patient lifters for people that are heavier and need to help transfer from here to there. We do all of the major medical equipment. We have a website you can book online, nycmobilityrentals.com. And we do that in New York. We have a team that delivers it directly to you. And then we're just now opening up here in Florida, doing also the rentals, but opening up a more all-in-one solution where we're going to be doing rentals, sales, repairs of all this type of equipment as well.
That's amazing. That's great. That's you're helping other people around the world that are dealing with the situation that you dealt with. So that's how businesses sometimes come.
It's not only something that helps me, live financially, but it also helps other people, and something that I'm really proud of.
Oh, so not only you went from changing schools and being in going to a regular school without being with a disability school,
right?
Going to college on your own in a different state, driving, graduating in college, and becoming a business owner with a disability. That's amazing. That's really unbelievable how you're able to do that. And that just shows the world that we can do anything. Whatever we put our mind to, and no matter disability, without a disability, we can still do it no matter what.
And that's the theme of this whole thing that I want to get across. I think the world today still sees people with disabilities as, I would say kind of less than the average person. And I don't think that's the case. And I don't think if you have a disability or you have any type of challenge that you're going through, I don't think you should see yourself as that. I think you should see yourself as an active member of the community, active member of the society, and do whatever it is that you can do to be the best version of you given it.
And a question that I really want to end off with, and I think it's an important one, is have you dealt with any stereotypes of disabilities in your life? And how did you deal with it? And how do you deal with it till this day?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stereotypes of disability of like, well, you have a disability. This is your limit. This is what you can do. You're going to be in a wheelchair the rest of your life. You may have a job. You may not have a job. If you don't have a job, the government's there to support you minimally with whatever they can. And this isn't just, this is just your way of life. We'll give you some activities here and there to do. I don't see life as that. I don't see that as a positive way of living life. I think, yes, you have a disability, but you can live life just like anybody else. And the expectations of you are not limited to your wheelchair. The wheelchair is just an accessory for you to help you. It's a vessel for you to help you get around. And that's all it is. That's the limit.
It's amazing outlook that you have, because throughout this interview, throughout this podcast, you didn't even talk about any negativity. You didn't bring in, you didn't really talk about so much about surgeries and things that were difficult, and you focus on the good things, on the positive.
No, that's what I mean. There are things that are difficult that we could talk for hours about. The things that are difficult. Important. But I don't think the difficulties should be spotlighted.
Yeah.
I think how we persevere from those difficulties, because we know the difficulties are there, right? We're not saying that the difficulties are not there, but what we are saying is that despite the difficulties, despite the challenges that we face, how can we overcome them? And how can we be better than them and live the best possible life we're given the challenges that we're given? I think that's the most important.
Yeah, and something I dealt with exactly a year ago. I said before, a year ago, it was 9 years ago yesterday, I got into my car accident.
Mm-hmm.
And then 1 year ago today, I broke my leg. It was the hardest thing I've been through, and it's something that I can look back and appreciate that I was able to get through it and go through this process and get through it. And it didn't stop me. I kept pushing, kept going, kept seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes it's dark, but sometimes when it's really hard, we got to just look at the good things in life and push it forward.
I think there's an interesting analogy, and I was watching these, it's an interesting thing, but I was always very into boxing and fighting and this stuff. And one thing that I find very interesting is that they say whenever you get punched, and whenever you break a bone, and whenever you deal with these certain types of things that should break you, when you heal, a lot of times it heals stronger, and the bone becomes stronger, and the muscles become stronger, and the facial structure becomes stronger.
Your mindset gets stronger.
And then the next time it happens, you're able to deal with it better.
Yeah, it's true.
I think that's a very big thing for us. I think the resilience of humans and the way we're able to overcome things, I think it's very important.
Yeah, I hurt my shoulder the other weekend, and a few weeks ago I hurt my shoulder. It was very hard. It was hurting. I couldn't get in and out of my bed. It's something we can do is we can be grateful for the things that we were given, and the times when we don't have it and it's missing and it hurts and we can't do what we can do.
Right.
But when we have it and we look back and we say, wow, look what God gave us. Look how we got through it. And we can thank God for the things that we were able to get through. And
yeah. And it's you have to do a lot within, God can give you as much support as possible.
Yeah.
Right? You can help.
It's all up to us, though.
With giving you 80-90% of what you need. That 10-20% is all he's asking for.
Oh,
it's you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's you. He's not going to do everything for you.
Yeah.
It's you.
We have to do our part, and God will do the rest. We have to just do our thing, push hard as much as we can, and God is going to help us do the other parts.
And He's going to be there to help you do it.
Yeah, but anyways, it was a pleasure to have you here. We learned a lot from you, and we can learn much more, just from looking at this podcast and keep remembering it and keep watching it and reminding us of how we could really get through life. And it's never an excuse. No matter what, we can do anything. And just from your story, it proves a lot that we can do so much. We can put our mind to whatever we put our mind to. And I really want to thank you for your time and your inspiration, and keep sharing the story. And for all those listeners listening right now, share it. Tell people about the story, because really it's an amazing story you have. And thank you for joining us. And
appreciate it so much.
And many good things. Only success in your business. Only success in the future. And as we say, B'ezrat Hashem, only good things, and only good things in the future.
Very good.